Participants, welcome. So we have seen over the last 2 days vivid and exciting debates on the hottest issue on how best to monitor and address human and labor rights issues across business and global supply chains. Now we have come to the last session of the Responsible Business and Human Rights Forum. This session is on the future of work. Many factors such as technological innovation, demographic shift, and climate change are generating a disruption to the world of work. This disruption forces are creating both challenges and opportunity in the world of work. They pose direct demands on the policymakers and the private sector to adequately implement measures, policy, and strategy to address changes in the labor market. I now invite you to welcome the speakers and moderator for this concluding plenary session on the future of work. Please join me welcome our speaker, Achara Ngam Somjit, Director of Strategy and Planning Division, Ministry of Labour of Thailand. Francis Kim Upngi, Director Social and Economic Policy, ITUC Asia Pacific. Michael Sham, Associate Professor, Swinburne, and Council Member of Malaysia Employer Federation. Barbara Maynard, Senior Advisor, Fung Group. This discussion will be moderated by Jose Roland Moya, the Director General, Employer Confederation of the Philippines. Over to you, Jose, and please give a round of applause to the panelists.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Roland Moya. I'm the Director General of the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ESCAP for short. ESCAP is the voice of Philippine employers on labor and social policy issues in the Philippines. ESCAP is the counterpart of the trade union movement in my country. We work quite extensively with the International Labor Organization and the Department of Labor and Employment, more specifically in the Philippines. As mentioned already, technological change, demographics, and climate change are major disruptive forces that create both challenges and opportunities in the world of work. Artificial intelligence, automation, digital communication create new jobs, but they will also come along with job losses of those who might not always possess the skills that match the jobs of tomorrow. Also, the transition to green economies will create labor market disruptions in which some but not all workers will gain, which highlights the importance to ensure a transition that is just. Aging populations place strain on social security and care systems and are also leading the efforts to increase retirement ages to prolong the working lives of the elderly. In its recent report, the ILO's Global Commission on the Future of Work proposed a human-centered agenda to tackle these issues, calling for a new approach that puts people and the work that they do at the center of economic and social policy and business practice. Various stakeholders have an important role to reshape business incentives for longer-term investment approaches and establish an enabling environment for decent future of work. Businesses, alongside public policies, have a central role to play to shape the future of work we want. The session will discuss the most pressing challenges, but also the new opportunities arising from the major forces that are disrupting the world of work, such as technological change, the demographics, and climate change. It will explore ideas and experiences that will allow governments and other stakeholders to better leverage the decent job creation potential of these forces while mitigating the risks that come along with them. The session will in particular focus on the role and responsibilities of business to put a human-centered agenda into practice with innovative policies, responsible business conduct, and people-centered technology at its core. The objective of the session is twofold. On the one hand, the session aims to raise awareness in the audience of the challenges that come along with the future of work. On the other hand, it aims to open a debate on what needs to be done to address those challenges and how roles and responsibilities are to be distributed. The distinguished members of the panel have already been introduced. I would like to start the conversation by requesting the members of the panel to deliver a short intervention, maybe in 3 to 5 minutes, on the challenges and opportunities that arise from the labor market disruptions induced by major forces such as technological change, demographics, and aging. More specifically, what disruptions are expected in the world of work? What challenges need to be addressed most urgently? What opportunities can be most easily grasped? And I'm referring to the low-hanging fruits. Let me now invite a representative from government, from the Ministry of Labor of Thailand, Achara.
Am I audible? Okay. Good afternoon. It's a great honor for me to join this seminar or forum. Mostly I work in the internal affairs. Mostly we conduct in Thai to meetings, and so my first time. So I apologize for my lack of limitation of English skill. So I will try to communicate all my thoughts on my expertise or experience. So in terms of Thailand, we have like a facing for the first one I would like to raise is that demographic change, because Thailand have changed from 1980 2018. So we have approaching aging society. We have lots of elderly. You walk and you see, we have less working age. So this is sign that we will go to age society in 5 years, and extremely in 30 years, 10 years later. So this is the first thing I think I would like to raise this. We have like a pyramid of population that you see. The top is a large number, working age is less, and then children, young children are less also. So like a woman, we will sexy women like this, you see. So I will try up, you see this. Like a population for Thailand, you see in the middle of working age, we are like this way. So sexy women, but affect labor market because we have like a elderly. So how we try to help these elder people to live well, to have decent life after they retire. One thing where we try that, okay, you are in the good condition, you want to work more, so we try to prolong the time of working from in business, mostly 55, now we extend to 50. And then in government, we try to from 60 to 63 or 65. It depends on the contract. And we promote wage, hourly wage for elderly to work every day if they work not more than 8 hours a day. It depends on job they work. Then we try to ask a company to employ those elderly people. This year we have launched like 1,000 jobs. We try to promote this, and we make MOU with company like Lotus, you know that, and they like help to in the supermarket like that. So we think it is the same, the quite good for those people. And then for the technology, we think now we wonder that it is very urgent for us to say that it's a very serious issue now. We have like a labor advisory council. We we talked about last year, even last year we talked about this impact. There is a sign for us, but in 5 to 10 years, that automation robots will come, replace 10 workers. So we will face like how we help those workers to adjust themselves to new technology. If they can, by scheme like reskill, upskill, that's okay, they can work longer. But if they cannot adjust themselves to this new, so they will lose job. We will try to focus on this also. Help them to have new occupation up to their skill. So we plan to follow this situation closely with our tripartites. Even this afternoon, this council go to the trade union to discuss about this issue, especially on aging population. Last week we go outside to Chonburi province to ask to the EEC economic zone. So we talk about technology change, how the affect, how everybody help each other to solve this problem. And we still have time? Sorry. So I was last thing that we heard about that human-centered agenda. This is not a new thing for Thailand. We already talked about this in our national plan. And I think we get along with this for ILO to announce to launch this in January. And in April the 11th, we help celebrate the centenary. We organize a meeting to discuss on this human agenda. All employee, they get together and they sign MOU to launch Thailand Decent Work Country Program 2019-2021. This is, I will show you what I won't go into detail about this. This is the first plan, country program. We will use this to implement together with all parties. So we just end for this. I think this is our mechanism to implement from speaking into action. Thank you.
Thank you, Achara. Now I'd like to invite Francis Kim from the ITUC, that's the International Trade Union Confederation in the Asia Pacific region.
Thank you, Laurent. Thank you for this opportunity to join this panel. And also, I would like to thank the organizer for this session on future of work so that we can discuss together how to shape our future brighter. I think it's really the appropriate topic as the closing session. And also, I would like to congratulate on International Labour Organization on their centenary conference now taking place in Geneva. And you know that, I'm from the union side, but I would like to emphasize the importance of this, the organization, this organization, which is also unique mechanism to have, to discuss the topic with workers and employer together with government for the social justice. I would like to share some challenges. Not the new challenges. I'm going to share the existing challenges identified in the report of the ILO Commission on the Future of Work, because these existing challenges also affect or worse the new potential challenges from the drivers of the transformation of the world of work, and also it will limit our capacity to address those challenges and also take advantage from the opportunities. The first one is that this current global economic order, which makes economic power concentrated on the small number of companies in the global supply chain. And together with this persistent regional, international, and national institutional deficit, this asymmetric power easily translated into their influence in domestic economic and social policies, and also the capacity of the public governance of the state, including the fiscal position. So we need to tackle this global order. We need new model to improve this. We need new model shift from the current global order. And I also want to share the existing challenges. How the Asia Pacific is attributable to these global challenges in the report. The report said there are 2 billion workers in informal sector. And out of these 2 billion workers in informal sector, there's almost 1.3 billion workers from the Asia Pacific region. And also, it says about the 400 workers in the extreme poverty in the world. And as I mentioned yesterday, almost 170 million workers in the extreme poverties are from Asia Pacific. And in Asia Pacific, every year, almost 1.7 million workers were killed by industrial accident and occupational diseases, which is almost 65% of the global death toll. And comparing with the work, in terms of working hours in the world, they said there are 35% of the workforce, they are working excessive long working hour over 48 hours per week. And in fact, in Asia Pacific, more than 50% of the workers, they are working excessively long working hours. For example, in Hong Kong, I went to Hong Kong and met the union there, and they said that their bus driver, they need to work more than 14 hours per day. And there's no regulation to control that. And so you see this, and also I would like to point out this, the increasing inequality in the world. In Asia Pacific, more than 80% of the population in this region, they experienced increasing income inequality. And still, comparing with the continents, the Asia, we are facing upward trend of income inequality. So, where these challenges actually come from? As I mentioned before, in Asia Pacific, we have extremely weak institutional setup with many missing parts. And especially the workers, the fundamental principles and rights at work has been violated for many years. For example, in terms of the ratification of the fundamental ILO Convention 87 and 98 on freedom of association and collective bargaining, there are 38 ILO member states in Asia Pacific, and only 18 countries, they ratified the Convention 87. And also institutional setup for the social dialogue is very weak. They have some setup, some system, but many countries I can see is quite non-functioning state. And you can see that the ILO Convention number 144 on the tripartite consultation, if you see, only, 18 countries out of 38 countries, they didn't ratify this convention. So you can see that there's the great deficit in the institutional setup to respect the fundamental principle and right at work, and also the social dialogue, which is essential part of the process, democratic process, to have the mutual consensus to move forward. So we need to tackle these fundamental problems. And as mentioned in the ILO report on the future of work, yes, it is we need to invest in the institution for decent work. And this is also in line with the recommendation of the OECD Employment Outlook report, publication in the theme of the future of work. Also, it recommends the more set of the employment protection for all workers, and also it recommends the extension of the collective bargaining rights to non-standard form of worker, including self-employed. So I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Francis. Earlier, Acharat elaborated on the aging population problem of Thailand, and Francis talked about the concentration of wealth in the hands of the few. He also touched on the need to institutionalize a new global order, problems related to occupational safety and health, and also the fundamental rights at work. May I now invite Michael from the Malaysian Employers Federation. He is a council member of MEF, and at the same time, he's also an academic. He's a professor, and he also heads the Malaysian Employers Federation Academy. Francis, take it away. Michael, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think, first of all, I say I must apologize that I have only got 10 minutes to sit here because I requested to have a helicopter lift to get to the airport, but it's not in the ILO budget. So I got to take a taxi and possibly the train. So my apologies first. I would really love to share these thoughts with you. Most of these things are close to my heart. And of course, shall not repeat what my two colleagues have spoken before. Basically, in the region, it is about the same, although from employer's perspective, it could be slightly different. Anyway, talking about the future of work, I'm thinking the other way, work in the future. What would the work in the future like? So things have changed drastically. And one of the main challenges is for many countries is, in Malaysia, it's a bit different. It's because of longevity and old age is coming along. And the leadership in the country, as you know, we are famous in the world for the oldest prime minister. He's only 93. So what happened is now, anybody who's thinking of retiring from his old regime or whatever it is, better put their head down because you'll be summoned back to work tomorrow. And it has happened. So those people think he's retiring in his rocking chair. They suddenly got a letter, you will report back to work. So anyway, that is one of the issues in Malaysia. I think longevity and old age is also affecting the region, especially in the more developed countries. One of the challenges here is because the whole Malaysian economy is supported by foreign workers. I will be careful to say that it's foreign workers, not migrant workers. They only got a short-term contract in Malaysia. For those who are not in the know, for a population of 32 million, we got 6 million foreign workers, documented and undocumented. But why they're undocumented, you all should know that how things happen, as I explained on the first day yesterday, that how people disappears when the contract expires. So one of the challenges is because in the industries, in the future, I would not really know how we're going to handle this problem is because Malaysia is basically very agricultural, right? We have done with our extractive industries, I think, except for petroleum, tin mining is gone. So all this is in the past. So what happened is, just look at agriculture. We are world famous of palm oil, although some of the NGOs here would love to have a bash at me on the world of palm oil, right? So Mr. Moderator has mentioned low-lying fruits. In fact, the industry is such that if we don't have the foreign workers, the fruits will just rot on the trees. Nobody will pluck them. So these are the challenges. Of course, why can't we automate and things like that? Certainly, I don't know how many of you have been to a palm oil estate or rubber estate, right? It's not easy to automate. My first job, unfortunately or fortunately, I work on an estate in the plantation house as auditor. I know what's a rubber tree and what's a palm oil tree. Do you? Well, the next time come to Malaysia, I'll take you on a tour. And you probably have a chance to look at what the palm oil industry looks like. So that is one of the challenges of the agriculture industry. Now, why do we face these challenges as inadequate workers? Maybe it's also the success of the education system, all right? And the thing is because we have public universities as well as thousands of Malaysians flock overseas to study. Some come back, some don't. So what happened is, you see, when they're back, nobody will do the 3D jobs, okay? So this is a huge challenge. If tomorrow we have a policy of removing all foreign workers, I think the whole country will come to a standstill. So that is one of the challenges. So what about other things that's in the pipeline is because automation, we heard so much of AI, industrial revolution, we know about that. So we are moving in that direction very quickly, and some of these challenges are with us, but the thing is, again, there's a shortage of workers. What I'd like to also touch on is the cross-border of workers. I think in the ASEAN region, people go cross-border a lot. I think in Malaysia, sometimes it's a mini Indonesia, it's a mini Nepal, mini Bangladesh. With the 6 million, and you come to Kuala Lumpur, we know certain section, it belongs to Bangladesh. Certain section belongs to Nepalese, and certain neighbors belong to the Vietnamese and all that. So it's a multinational thing, right, in Malaysia. But what is the good news? I think we also have a bit of success factor is because we are home to another 6 million people. They like to stay there, and the thing is, as I mentioned, when the contract expires, they just disappear, right? Because they like to stay on. So what has happened is we also look that the government has a disincentive that if you want to extend this worker for more than 10 years, you pay $10,000 levy. $10,000 just to extend the work permit. And of course, there's a big hue and cry and things like that. Anyway, they say, okay, we treat you nice, we reduce the 6,000 for the next 3 years. So we don't know what the future holds. So these are some of the success stories, and I think for the future, the way we go forward is the intensive migration to automation and ICT and all that. And I suppose I will have to stop my 3 minutes here, otherwise I miss my flight as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Before, with the indulgence of Barbara, I will have to propound one or two questions to Michael before we release him so he would be able to catch his flight at 7 o'clock tonight. You kept talking about migration.
Yeah.
Migration is a big thing in Malaysia. Is it because of an aging population? Is this because of the shortage of skills in some sectors of your economy, like the service sector, the ICT, the agriculture? And what new regulations have been put in place to ensure that foreign workers are well protected and incidents of abuses and exploitation perpetrated against them are minimized, if not totally prevented, and are expeditiously addressed?
So there are two ways of looking at it. One is immigration, one is those who migrate out of the country. I think, as I say, again, it's the education system. It's many people who immigrate, leave the country, is because they study overseas. I'm sure those from US or Australia and UK, you know, we have thousands of students overseas. They study overseas, but they don't come back. Some do come back, of course, for various reasons. So that is where we also lost the talent. That's one. Now, then is the immigrants who come in. So this is the challenge, is because I think we are very concerned that we take somebody who starts, it's always a 2 years contract or 3 years contract, and we have to train them from scratch. So after 3 years or 6 years, or renew a second term, right, they become good. They know how to operate machines, they know how to do simple things on the systems and everything. But then the contract got terminated and we send them to another country because they leave. So this is the type of challenges we face, the immigration, and those people who leave the country, right, immigrate, and those immigrate. So this is one of the challenges we have, and I suppose it's a common challenge, especially that Malaysia is very much English speaking, so they fit in very nicely to some of the countries they studied in. So that's one of our questions. Is that one you asked, and did I left out something?
What are some of the new regulations put in place to ensure that the foreign workers are protected?
Well, I'm very much part of this advisory council on the foreign workers, and I think that sometimes we are also wondering that the local workers doesn't get the good benefits that foreign workers get. You see, for example, maybe most of you may not be aware that for foreign workers who, let's say, on the estate, they are entitled to housing, free electricity and water, free kindergarten, kindergarten schools and all that. These are things not often talked about. So what has happened is, even that is not good enough. I think recently we have a new legislation. They have come out with a minimum standard of housing. So we're actually having a big debate, and the representatives from the workers came, the trade union came. So what are the things that you want? Well, we like to have hot water shower system. Can you imagine that, you know, and in this weather? And we also gave them that. Now the rooms, they're not more 4 to a room, not more than 4, and all these things are in the pipeline, and this is going to be legislation on that. And we are very concerned that some of the, as you said, abusers, since we are we are home to about a few million, right? And I know there were 1 or 2 cases of accidents. One death is too many, I always say that. But this is exactly the challenges we have, and the penalty is very severe. Okay, under our OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health, it applies to the foreign workers as well. And I also sit on the Social Security Board, and recently, in January 2019, we extend the same Social Security on industrial accident to the foreign workers. In fact, that was a big challenge. What happened when he's expatriated with an injury? How do we find him? How do we pay him? These are the little bit of questions. So foreign workers are also sharing more or less the same benefit as the Malaysian because it's provided in the Act. Yeah.
One last question for you, Michael, before we set you free. As you know, the ILO Global Commission on the Future of Work just came out with a report, and the International Organization of Employers received the report quite positively. Yet it took note of the report's failure to acknowledge the value that the private sector adds to the world of work. The recommendations, IOE said, focus solely on the human being and the status of the worker. Why is it important and even crucial to properly situate the role of the private sector and how business community could contribute and be part of the solution?
You see, as I mentioned, that we are in dire needs of workers, right? Even the process of getting a new license or a new work permit to get another worker is a very long process. So what does the worker need and what does the employer do? So what happens is they are afraid that they'll run away, number one, all right? Number two is because if somebody leave you, tomorrow you're not going to open your shop. You look at some restaurants, right? We need the workers. Even the cook in the kitchen, you know, if decided not to turn up to work tomorrow, you are closed. So this is the over-the-fund. This is why the benefits that's given, some of them even pay. Of course, I didn't mention just now, the foreign workers are also entitled to minimum wage, all right? So I mentioned the first day yesterday that we need them to work and we pay them overtime as stipulated in the Act, and we need them to work. So this is where we continue to extend all this benefit, and the treatment to the foreign worker is not much different to the locals. The only fear is don't work for your neighbor, for my neighbor who only pay you $50 more, because that's what's happening, and that is a challenge. So I think overall in balance, and I should say that because I'm very much engaged with this debate and of amending the constitution and the laws and things like that, I think this is a way forward, and certainly for the future, maybe we will probably be engaging more professionals like engineers, accountants in the country, because there's never enough. All right, you are welcome to come to Malaysia, Jose. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Now
Thank
you
you.
are
Yeah.
free to
Thank you very much.
leave, and let
enjoy
us
the rest
all
of the sessions.
give a big round of applause
Thank you
to
very much. Yeah.
Michael for his interventions. But I now
All right.
invite Barbara to say her piece. Incidentally, Barbara is identified in the program as Senior Advisor for Fung Group, but you may not know it, Barbara is a social scientist, and most of her interventions will focus mainly on her identity as a social scientist. Thank you, Michael.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Since we are talking about challenges and opportunities, let me first state my personal challenges. I have two. One, the first is I'm the last speaker of the last session. And my challenge is to say something that nobody else has said. The second, as the moderator said, I'm a social scientist and I take an interest in a number of issues, particularly on disruptions to society. Disruptive technologies, the impact, demographics, old age, green economy, blue economy. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have later in a conversation. So I've designed my opportunity to talk to you on just one issue that I think is the most important and the most fundamental to our society. And that is the issue, on the issue of social inequalities. Why do I say this? Because I'll give you 3 reasons why we can look forward to rising inequalities from technologies. The first is automation, robotization, and all the other technologies will lead to increased productivity and profits. And these profits will accrue to the owners of capital. It doesn't accrue to everyone, which we are seeing every day inequalities. The statistics today are scary. According to Oxfam, 8 billionaires today have as much wealth as 3.6 billion people, which is the poorest half of the world's population. According to the UK-based House of Commons Library, on the current trends, the richest 1% will control some 2/3 of the world's wealth by 2030. In my view, and I hope it's logical and apparent to you all, that unless we reverse this trend, we cannot achieve the Sustainable Development Agenda. If you have 99% of the population with only 1/3 of the world's wealth, we cannot address all the issues that we want, the social justice and so forth. So we have to reverse this trend. The second reason that inequalities are rising is because of the way wages are being given. The highest wages are going to the high-skilled workers. And the demand is also for low-skilled workers who have certain ability, for example, dexterity. We're talking about plumbers, gardeners, and childcare and care for the elderly. But what is happening is that the middle income skill are being hollowed out because they are the people most affected and will be even more affected by robotics and automation. Although there is a lot of demand for low-skilled workers with dexterity, the demand for these jobs is so high, there's competition for the jobs, that wages will not rise. So increasingly, wage will rise for the high-skilled workers, which will exacerbate income inequality. And you can say, well, we can train. I'm not being pessimistic. I think I'm being realistic to saying no amount of training or education will make every single person in the world a high-skilled worker. It's just not possible. Not everyone can engage in high-skilled activities. And the third reason that inequalities is rising, because the employment model has changed. You know, the employer-employee relationships since the 20th century, particularly in developed economies, have been based on employment contracts that are permanent, that give sufficient remuneration for the workers to support the family and to give benefits. And these kind of contract and employer and employee relationships have formed the basis which allow the labor market institutions and the social protection system to become pillars of society. And our benefits and our labor market institutions are based on this kind of contract. But because of technologies, we have now a fragmentation of workers. Work is spread out either within one particular economy, where you have freelancers, you have digitally enabled platforms where you can do part-time work, or a series of part-time work instead of one full-time employees. We also have platforms that allow people to commercialize their personal assets, like cars and properties. So the nature, because of technology, the nature of work and the contractual arrangements between employer and employees have changed. And these affect the pillar of the social protection system. It's getting to the point that even in some cases, people do not have even the basic health benefit. I'm not saying something new because we are aware of this deficiency. What the world has not yet come to an alignment, what new model we're going to need to replace to make it work. I'm not sort of gloom and doom because I do like to propose a solution as how we could use this as an opportunity to redesign the society that we live today to be the kind of society that we want. But if I could leave this to the next part when there's a question. But I just want to stress that I see from the society perspectives, inequalities is as big a problem to our world and to each of us as the sustainability issue for our planet.
Thank you, Barbara. Let me now go to Francis again. The report of the ILO Global Commission on the Future of Work recommended the recognition of concepts like the universal labor guarantee, the limits on universal protection from birth to old age, and the universal entitlement to lifelong learning. Why are these things important to the workers of the future? And don't you see this as impediments to innovation, to entrepreneurship, and the dynamism of business, because this may add costs?
Definitely, because the investment in human capacity is directly related to the agile labor force to prepare the changes of the world of work, so that it will give an opportunity for the society to prepare the opportunities and challenges from, for example, technological advancement, as Barbara mentioned about automation, and definitely we need reskilling, upskilling for skilling the labor force to prepare. So investment in the human capacity by providing lifelong learning is very important in Asia Pacific. But unfortunately, when you look at the current the social infrastructure in Asia Pacific for education, I think there's a huge space for us to invest more in educational sector in Asia Pacific, which is one of the great concern of the society. And you question about universal labor guarantee. Yes, as also Barbara mentioned about this gig economy and the new non-standard form of employment, definitely we see the trend of increasing informality in conventionally formal sector. And I don't believe that the nature of the work has been changed. I believe the business model has been changed by the opportunity of the technology. So it is important, as I mentioned before, already the OECD recommends to expand the collective bargaining rights. So it's in line with that. We need a certain institution like the universal labor guarantee to provide the minimum standards in line with the ILO internationally recognized labor standard for all types of workers, regardless their employment status. That's quite important thing to address current problem, at the same time embrace opportunity from the future.
Thank you, Francis. Achara, the recommendation of the global report uh, include the promotion of the shared objective of strengthening workers' minimum protection. Yet the onus or the burden of the responsibility lies on the government to adopt relevant laws and regulations. Of course, the social partners can also raise the floor of labor protection through collective agreements. How easy or difficult is it for governments, and in your case, the government of Thailand, to provide guarantees on living wage, reduction of the number of working hours, and the pathways to make the transition from the informal to formal employment?
As from the Ministry of Labor, we acknowledge this problem. So we try first. Minimum wage is a hot issue now at the moment because the new government had announced that they will raise up the minimum wage. So we are on the way of going to decide how many to raise the minimum wage all over the country. So this is the thing that the first thing that the new government have to do on this, but not the government. It's the organization of tripartites. So government, employer, employee as a board, national board, they discuss together and decide on this. So not only the government, that we are the one who organize this social dialogue, yes, for the minimum wage. For social protection, we also offer the more the benefit of social security fund for voluntary, for informal sector who are not, they are freelance, they don't have a employer, they are not in the social security fund in the formal, in the not like a forced to pay that. But we have like now I think not around 70 million people in informal sector. We try to promote them to be to pay for themselves in the social security fund and gain benefit more and more. Now we have 3 million people to be in this scheme. So we try to persuade more to pay for themselves, and the government give remedy for that for two type of source of this fund together, and they will give like a health insurance, something where they give for their sick, they get remedy from this. So we try to expand more benefits from these people, and then we try to help them to get more skill, support them to have multi-skill to do their own business to survive this. Yeah. Also, their safety on work. We work around this in like a collaboration with government and the local government, and then people in community who help together. So in the provincial, we have like a local, so labor provincial to organize this to the people in the remote area, who they're like in my experience in Phayao province, they live far away, but we go to the village. We offer our service to them, gather together and have the training for their for freelance to group together, and they earn living from their own like an entrepreneur as a group. So we promote this together. Not only Ministry of Labor, but all ministry help together in the provincial area. But at the government, they just make the policy. They announce that we left no one behind. In equality, we cannot avoid that. We try to fill the gap in this. So in this, we try to promote job. We provide skill development and social protection and safety and health. We also we even promote to be Safety Thailand to promote health and occupational safety. That's it.
Thank you, Achara. Now I go back to Barbara. You talked quite extensively on the rising inequality from the point of view, from the perspective of a social scientist. Would like to hear about some specific prescription on how, the corporate world, the business community can address this rising inequality? What are some of the strategies that must be adopted?
You know, that there is the specific things that there are specific things that one could do, and then there is the big picture that I have outlined. So let me just give at least one example of specific things. The group with which I'm associated has quite extensive supply chains in the garment sector, and with particularly in Bangladesh, where there are a lot of women employees. And we developed apps and ran programs on financial education. I mean, simple things like we help them to get bank accounts so that their wages go to them and not their husbands, who would take the money and maybe go to drink, and then the money disappears for the whole month. So these are simple things, and financial literacy, for example, is some of the things that a corporate could do at that level of with workers, and we take that very seriously. We also take seriously the safety and health issues, and that also requires education of not just factory owners, but certainly of workers. So that's fairly extensive in terms of including leaving no one behind, and also using technologies to do it. But that does not address the really big picture, that there is a global inequality to the extent that we have to reverse it, and that cannot be addressed by any one company, but responsible business can certainly take leadership and work in collaboration with government and civil society to redesign the society. If I may say a few words, is it okay? In order to address this, we actually have to change our mindset, change the way we look at problems and solutions. What we do today is when we have a problem, we look for solutions that will achieve the less bad outcome. Let me give you an example. If we operate a factory, a workplace, and there are accidents, and you have 100 accidents or 10, the objective would be to reduce the accident to 0. And what anybody would do, is that you would then look for the best practice, and then you would then use this and apply it really conscientiously. And then when you achieve 0, you have achieved your objective. But that's the less bad outcome. So I'm proposing a new kind of design, that if we switch our mindset to looking for a more good outcome, not the less bad, but a more good, from 10 to 0 is less bad, but a more good solution would be, let's say, our target is not just to reduce to 0, but to create a healthy workplace, to create healthy employees, to create healthy community where we operate. So that's more good. But if we even go further, and this is what responsible business, to my mind, could do, is to say, we could even go further. Why don't we think in terms of creating more good, in this case, health, better health, for our customers and suppliers in whatever we do in our products, in services. So I'm giving you an example of how you can design something to be more good. You may saying that this is not, utopia, but it really isn't, because if we look at everything from the design perspective, and this is something that is new, and I'm learning this, and I'm literally sharing with you my switch, the switch in my own mind. You know, if you look and you're saying to yourself, we don't have a pollution problem. What we have is a design problem. Because if we had designed our plant properly, our production properly, our product properly, we would not be in the position we are today with faulty product, with bad things, with smoke and CO2 emission, because we would have dealt with it earlier. So it's a design problem. And if there's a design problem, we can address it. So if you take this to the next step, is that human beings don't have an inequality problem, even though I said we do. We don't have. What we have is a bad design problem, because we had not designed institutions, mechanisms, governance that prevented inequality in the first place. So, because if we accept that it's a design problem, we can actually deal with it, because by looking at it as a design, we are empowered to address it. And that's what I mean, that business can then work together with others to do it. Design is the first signal of human intention. And I don't believe that human beings got together and saying, we're going to design the world so that it will be polluted. I don't believe that people got together and saying, we're going to design society so that it will be increasingly unequal. I think it just happened because we never thought about it. And so to me, this is a wake-up call, and it's an opportunity for all of us, civil society, multilateral organizations, NGOs, business, to saying, it's time for us. It's an opportunity to redesign the society we want, and business definitely has a leading role in that.
Thank you, Barbara. You have a very interesting insights from the point of view of a social scientist. I have to ask this last question among the members of the panel to Francis. My next question to you is on the sphere of social dialogue and industrial relations. Will there be pressure to differently channel the representation of a dispersed workforce? Is there a need to set up new forms of workers' protection and representation, regardless of the form of employment? To put it more bluntly, will the traditional collective channels used for workers' representation, and I'm referring to company trade union representation or company workers' representation, be affected by the fast-changing scenario?
Thank you for your question. Actually, my answer is done by Barbara already. First, about the social dialogue. As I mentioned before, that there's a not very strong institution to promote social dialogue. And please understand, the social dialogue is not like a formal setting. You just sit together. Actually, social dialogue starts from informal exchange of ideas. Idea to design the good, the business model. So don't be afraid to have social dialogue. It's actually it's good for us, because business and the union and workers, we are actually looking the same direction for the prosperity of the business. We know that the private sector has a great, it's a main engine to create employment. And there's the inevitable to have some industrial restructuring to embrace opportunity from future. So what we want is, we want the institution to protect workers so that they can prepare the next round of their career. And also, how to design that, Barbara already said, yes, we need to talk. We need to gather together, the government and union and business and CSO and all the stakeholders to sit together to discuss about this. that's the one. And about this is a fragmentation of the workforce. That's why I already mentioned that we need to develop the universal labor guarantee to applicable to all types of workers. And then we need to strengthen the social protection. From the union side, we also we made a great effort to organize workers, and also we try to introduce new type of membership to embrace the workers in informal sector, because one of the great the task for the trade union is formalization of the informal workers. Here, introduce like associate membership, so that we can raise our representation. That's why the ASEAN statement by the Ministry of Labor adopted this March. They made strong commitment to increase representation of workers as well as businesses.
Yeah, thank you, Francis. We have run out of time. The ILO World Commission on the Future of Work was given 18 months to complete its report. The panel was only given an hour and a half to traverse the various complex and diverse issues around the disruptions occasioned by, the future of work. Let me thank the members of the panel for your interventions, for your insights, for your ideas and thoughts, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you to all panelists for this interesting discussion on the future of work. Just a quick announcement that a participant in CR4 forgot her wallet, so please contact security at X-Ray Belt ground floor UNCC. So next, ladies and gentlemen, before we will arrive to the end of this forum, the floor will be given to the co-organizers to highlight the main conclusion and takeaway of the Responsible Business and Human Rights Forum. So please join me welcome the co-organizers.
There's another wallet here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I guess I should start by introducing myself. My name is Mia Mikic. I'm Director of Trade, Investment and Innovation Division of ESCAP. And being in the ESCAP house, I'm really happy that this role was given to us, that collectively produce a closing to this very significant event that was happening here. Now, I have counted the number of effective hours of discussion that you had since the beginning of the forum, and it's about 20 hours of structured discussions with more than 68 speakers and a decent number of moderators. And quite a number of hours of that was webcasted, and therefore the exposure to those discussions was much bigger than the large number of participants in this room. So I think the impact from all of this will be widespread and quite significant and it will be really too bad for us not to be able to ride on that, to build on that, and produce even better outcomes in this area of work as we go into future. So what I will be doing here in terms of moderating the closing session would entail asking all of the representatives of the partners here to really focus on few, maybe 2 or 3 main takeaways that they have gotten to identify from the hours spent in discussions and the work as a preparation into that, but with a forward looking direction, and by telling us how we will plan to work in future in terms of this objective. Before I do that, I really want to use the opportunity to thank not only participants. We are sitting here after 5 o'clock with, I think, a very full room, which is the best show of the quality of the event that was put out yesterday and today. But of course, it's my privilege to thank our partners that have teamed with ESCAP, Trade, Investment and Innovation Division, and other colleagues in ESCAP, including, of course, OECD, ILO, UNDP, the Royal Thai government, and our development partners of European Union and Sweden. So I thank all for many hours of preparation of this event and for participation in this session and contributing to this session. So with me today are actually representatives of the partner institutions, and if I may start with Freddie Guayacan. Apologies for the maybe mispronunciation. Program manager of the Responsible Supply Chain in Asia program of ILO, to bring us maybe 2-3 takeaways from the perspective of ILO, from the forum, and to tell us what will be the focus going forward of ILO in this area of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, to the co-organizers and to the audience for the participation in the forum. Well, I think as main takeaways from our side, we have seen that in these times of social, technological, and environmental changes, it is fundamental to keep humans at the center of the economic development agenda. I mean, this has been present and highlighted across different panels. We have seen also that the labor dimension of sustainability remains a challenge in many sectors, and the way to proceed, the way forward is indeed through policy coherence, through partnerships, and working together for institutional coordination, for the promotion and implementation of human rights, labor rights, and in general the agenda also of sustainability. That agenda is indeed an opportunity, the Agenda 2030 and specifically the SDGs, a good opportunity for businesses to engage with other relevant actors, the emphasis on partnership and coordination, which has been emphasized in different panels, the engagement with trade unions, with businesses associations, governments, and CSOs is key to work on topics like gender balance, good wages, better working conditions, and equality. Of course, all the SDGs are important, but it has been, at least from our perspective, highlighted that the SDG 8 on sustainable economic growth and decent work is key for every business, and indeed remain the way for them to contribute for the elimination of poverty, for the promotion of equality, also and ensure the access to social protection, health, education.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Let me continue with the same question to Kun Nareluk Parchayapom, Director of the International Human Rights Division of the Ministry of Justice of Thailand.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Okay, for me, on behalf of Royal Thai government, I'd like to thank all the co-organizers for such a wonderful, to well-organized and wonderful forum here. And I would like to thank all the participants who joined us from yesterday until today, and is very impressed by your, your idea and also your presence here. And almost full of the room now, so almost at 5 p.m. now. So with lots of people still here. So thank you very much. And if you not noticed, so actually this forum, we have more than 100 of government officers from Thailand attend this forum as well. So we found it very useful for us, and thanks OECD to choose Thailand to organize, our first time outside of Paris. So we have learned a lot, and I'm sure that everyone have learned a lot, and we have a chance to exchange knowledge and learn from experience from other countries. As for Thailand, for outside, we have learned a lot, and I found that I have a lots of homework, to do after today, and I have a lots of homework to do. First thing that we like we learn from this is the NCP. I think very important. So we definitely Thailand, we discuss among Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Foreign Affairs already that we will decided to study the possibility to set up the NCP in Thailand. I joined the side event yesterday, which was very interesting to learn from many NCP from many countries, and we found it will be useful to have NCP in Thailand. And we have OECD have already translated the OECD guidance for Thailand, or the OECD due diligence guidance in Thai. So we will circulate and disseminate for the Thai government agencies, and also we will start do some pilot project with agriculture. With agriculture sector. So I think hopefully it will be, we will be in touch, for further, discussion on this. And also as for the UNGP, we actually in Thailand, as you know from the opening ceremony, that business and human rights plays on top of the priority of the national agenda on human rights. So we work to drive forward the UN guiding principle on business and human rights together with the responsible business conduct, guidance as well. So we will launch the NAP soon, hopefully within the end of this month. And next July in July we will have at the end of July I think we will have officially launch of the NAP. And we also have after that we have a lot of homework to do, is to promoting the implementation of the NAP. And of course, a series of training and budget was, will be provide for implementation of the NAP. And we will work closely with the UN, working group on business and human rights as well to promote the business sector and all the stakeholders to implement the UN guiding principle on business and human rights. And of course, this the other idea that we've got from this, the quick homework is to train the judicial, on the role of human rights defender. And we will have I already discussed with the National Human Rights Commission and some CSO, Thai CSO who joined this just after the human rights defender, your session, that we will have discuss on the measure to protect human rights defender, like seriously discuss, and we try to think about the appropriate measure to protect human rights defender. So I think this, this forum enlightened the idea of us, and also my team who joined this as well. So I think this will be a good takeaway for us, and a lot of homework for us as well.
Certainly, and I think we are looking forward for the next year's forum for you to report on how much of that has been done
Sure,
and with
sure.
what results.
Yeah.
Because it's a really long list of
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
the things, but all with almost the same priorities, right? So thank you for that summary. And you mentioned OECD a number of times and their work with you. So it's a good segue in asking Christina Tebales, head of responsible business conduct of OECD, to share with us the main takeaways and what next for OECD or for your team in this area. Christina?
Thank you very much. My first takeaway is that I'm very happy that this event has happened. I mean, this is a unique happening that we have the OECD, the ILO, UNDP, ESCAP, and the Thai government joining forces to make this event, to get this off the ground and have 2 days of very, very, very rich discussions. Lots of people coming from an area of the world with which we at OECD have relatively few opportunities to engage with. So this has been a wonderful opportunity for us to learn. As Naruluk said, this is the first time we organize the Global Forum on RBC outside of Paris, but in fact this was not just the OECD Global Forum, it was something else. It was really a synergy of forces of all of us, and you said there have been 20 hours of discussions. I think it has been more if we count all the parallel sessions. I think behind these 20 or whatever hours, there have been hundreds of hours of preparation among the secretariats, but also hundreds of hours of people sitting in the room, preparing their presentations, preparing their trip to come here, engaging with others. And this event is just the tip of the iceberg. We have had numerous side events, like official side events, but there have been numerous other events around this. And I think this is just wonderful that this has happened, that we have really managed to gather so many people around a topic that I think is very, very important for all of us. So I'm extremely happy that this has happened, and I'm very grateful to our colleagues in Bangkok for having hosted us, helped us, supported us, and of course this was a joint and mutual effort. So in terms of takeaways, well, I'm very happy that Thailand has publicly announced that they are considering setting up an NCP. We're having the meeting of our NCP network next week, so we will of course take home this message and a lot of learnings from this event. We're going to discuss also with our working party on RBC, which gathers 48 governments that adhere to the OECD guidelines, how we can also take the learnings from this event further, for example, on how to improve the integration of business and human rights and responsible business conduct standards into public procurement, how to mainstream RBC into corporate governance, how to bring the climate and human rights agendas closer together, how to ensure that trade agreements which include provisions on business and human rights and responsible business conduct are implemented to the benefit of the populations. So there are many, many things that we will take home. Yeah, I think this is giving us a lot of food for thought, but above all, I think we have created really something unique and very special, and this will be really a highlight of well, I think this year for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. And let's maybe do a public commitment to repeat this particular conglomerate of partnership for next year, because when you start doing such a good joint collective effort, then it's I think too bad if we let it drop. So maybe we can really commit to continue along the same track, and maybe even further more organizations will join us in this work. Now, last but not the least, Livio Sarandrea, Business and Human Rights Advisor of UNDP. Livio, the same question to you.
Thank you, Mia. I'll start from where we started, which was a little bit before Christmas. I think we started talking among partners and had this idea of joining our forces. And 6 months down the line, we have had this wonderful forum. I think we have given as Christine already said, a very strong signal of policy coherence of OECD and UN, different actors of UN joining forces around responsible business and around business and human rights. And it is something that I do feel very proud of having achieved. And for that, I also want to thank really warmly and sincerely our colleagues. It's been really a great journey for all of us to organize this. And the outcome was, I think, very visibly successful. It's been 2 days of course, very intense discussions, but also we have noticed, having organized the forum here in Bangkok for the 3rd time, 4th time in ASEAN, that the level of discussion, the sophistication of discussion has really grown very much. I've really enjoyed immensely the discussions. We went from discussing the basics of Pillar 1, Pillar 2, Pillar 3, protect, respect, and remedy, into very, very sophisticated issues, even climate change and human rights. So it is really evolving in terms of substance, and I'm very happy with that. We discussed, but we also collected many, many, many action points. I think all the facilitators have made an effort to try to also lead the questions into finding solution, finding action point, finding homeworks, to use the word that Nariluk used. And I do think we have many homeworks for us. We have our own NAP, if you like, to implement in the year to come. We certainly have ours. As far as UNDP is concerned, I'll mention 3 things, 1 per pillar. Pillar 1 will work on NAPs. We'll continue to do that with Thailand, in Indonesia. Next week we'll be in Malaysia for their discussion on their national action plan, and we'll work with India and in many other countries. In Pillar 2, human rights due diligence will be in focus, but within that, and that's really a takeaway from this discussion today, we want to focus on alternate human rights due diligence, that is, has been called today, shadow human rights due diligence, meaning working with human rights defenders in trying to feed into the human rights due diligence. It's something that we really want to work on. Pillar 3, remedies. I have a common agenda with the Narilak, so we'll work together. Training of judges on slap cases in Thailand is going to be something that we'll start working on Monday. Not tomorrow, but on Monday at least. Takes me to the very last point, which is where we go next. Easy to commit on our side. We've done this for 4 years. We definitely commit to do it again. The forum should go on. We have a very good model. I do hope that partners will join us in the form that will be possible to do. So do book your calendars already. 1st or 2nd week of June next year, we will meet again on the regional forum, where maybe here in Bangkok, maybe somewhere else, we don't know, but there will definitely be a regional forum on business and human rights. That was my almost last point. The very last is I hope that you all have saved your biggest round of applause for the team that really have made this possible. Our secretariat, we are now sitting on these chairs, but there are...
Yeah, before finalizing, I mean, in the rounds of thanks also, well, to the supporters of this forum, to the European Union, and to Sweden.
And in fact, you remind me, the other people, that before acknowledging the Secretariat and asking for the round of applause, I also asked for their round of applause to include our special guests, the 3 members of the UN Working Group on Business and Human Rights, Dante, Surya, and Anita, and of course the chair of the OECD Working Party on RBC, Christine. Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence here. And I do believe now is the time to call on the stage with us the wonderful secretariat that worked even harder than all of us for the last 6 months. So I hope Sean is here, Tihana, Victoria, please join us here on the stage. You do deserve to be on the stage yourself. Sean, Tihana, Victoria, Mint, Vivian, Elodie, Maurice, Connie, Pete, Harpreet, Emily, who am I forgetting? And
Stephanie,
whomever I have
Shivani,
forgotten, please
Nicola,
join us all here.
Barbara.
Kanda, sorry, Kanda.
Who am I missing?
Marit, did I say Marit? Of course, Marit. Sorry, Marit.
Rena, is Rena there?
Sarah, please all join us. And apologies for whomever I have forgotten. There was many of you. Do take a picture of these wonderful people. And I'll close with that.
No, I just have to say something.
Yeah, please.
It is of course wonderful to see so many people, and there are probably a few more that somewhere in the woodwork there that contributed to this. Include our technical personnel in the conference management, etc. But I wouldn't do my job properly if I didn't mention what ESCAP also will be doing in terms of on the basis of this. So if you allow me just, of course, you have gotten the clue from the diversity of presentations through the 2 days, but also now in the closing session. We are different organizations, we have different ways of working and different focus. And that's why it is really a great success that we were able to pull it together and work together amicably and produce this coherent set of sessions going in the same direction. So ESCAP will be continuing working on its strengths, which is working with the governments in terms of policies that would allow, of course, taking into account both responsible business behavior as well as human rights. But we are also working with the ESCAP Sustainable Business Network, and by working directly with the businesses, we can create a bigger impact as well. Not only through looking at instruments that we work with, different investment agreements and trade agreements, and also looking at how to enhance and enforce sustainability principles in that. So this is what we will be doing in preparation for next year forum, wherever it will be. But we are going to join all of you as, and I say our development partners, of course. In addition to European Union and Sweden, we welcome any other development partner that would want to join us, right? So with that, I
Can
think,
I call my
yes,
staff
of
as well?
course, of course, government of Thailand, the last word.
Yeah, I called them.
Okay,
I
all right.
called them to come up. Just come to have a group photo. Yeah.
And,
I want them to have a group photo as well.
and we would also, of course, like to thank the speakers and all the participants for being here. So thank you very much for.
Yeah, thank you so much. And bon voyage for everyone.
So I think with that, thank you very much, and have a pleasant evening and safe journey back home. Thank you.